all gods have come unto me and given me an epiphany. And that epiphany is this. Kevin Warren and the Big Ten set the Pac-12 up. Kevin Warren and the Big Ten are chicken shit. Let's talk about it. The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Like that old Queen song, another one bites the dust. Well, that's what the Pac-12, 10, 8, whatever they're going to be. That's what they're about to do. They're about to bite the dust because of some underhanded chicanery by the Big Ten and Kevin Warren. But before I get to all that, I am the OCF. That is the Outlaw of College Football, also known as JPC. You can find me on Twitter at OCF Productions, at OCF Productions. Also, I'm on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark if you want to holler at me on there as well. Now, getting right to it, class. Old Kevin Warren in the Big Ten, and even the Rose Bowl to some degree, have had a hand. Maybe not the Rose Bowl as much, but have had a hand in deep sixing the Pac-12. And I just want to call them out on it because it's some cowardly ass bullshit, for lack of a better term. Let's talk about Kevin Warren and what he's tried to do since he's been here as commissioner. Let's rewind a little bit to 2020 when he tried to kill college football altogether over some COVID stuff that we come to find out it wasn't near as bad as he tried to make it out to be. You see, Kevin Warren come in, and he was the first person in the summer of 2020 that said, we're not going to play any non-conference games because of this epidemic. Everybody was fine with that. The SEC and all of them went along with it because, hell, they couldn't control whether Kevin Warren come and played a non-conference game against them. They couldn't control that, so they had to acquiesce to that. A little bit later on, Kevin Warren says, wow, look at me. I'm the grand poobah of the NCAA. I'm the greatest. I'm going to push my political agendas now. I'm King Dingaling. I'm going to shut the whole thing down. So he comes out and says, you know what? We're not playing any games, y'all. Nobody's playing any games. Wrong answer. The SEC and the Big 12 at that point said, you know what? You don't control what we do in conference, Mr. Kevin Warren. We're going to play football. And they did. And Kevin Warren tried to double down for a little bit, but then he realized, oh shit, they're getting all the accolades. They're getting all the press. They're getting all the media. They're getting everything. We're getting nothing. We're just sitting here. And I'll give it to Ohio State out of all the Big Ten schools. They had the spine, them in Nebraska, to stand up to Kevin Warren and say, hey, look, man, if you don't put us back on the football field, there's going to be some issues. So he did. But he waited a little too late. Because at that point, Ohio State was only able to get 8 games in. Meanwhile, the Alabama team that played the national championship game had 13 games under the belt and were very much more seasoned. And it showed because they beat Ohio State 52-24 like a homecoming opponent. Kevin Warren basically sacrificed his greatest asset just because he wanted to come back out and play ball again. After he took his ball and went home, he wanted to come back out and play again because he was getting his feelings hurt, or he thought he might be looking bad. So he took a beating on that, and a deserved beating. Well, fast forward to now. Kevin Warren, last year, not even now, last year, Kevin Warren comes to the Pac-12 and the ACC after the SEC takes Texas and Oklahoma, because it really pissed him off, to be honest with you, because the Big Ten, they won't admit to this, had their eyes on Texas. They wanted Texas in the fold, maybe even Oklahoma, but they definitely wanted Texas. And we took Texas. SEC took Texas and Oklahoma. So Kevin Warren, at that point, was like, shh, got mad. Got pissed off a little bit. So he forms this little alliance with the ACC and the Pac-12, knowing good and well in the back of his mind he has no intention of following through with this alliance and in good faith, which he's lacking of very much of. So the Pac-12 had a chance. They had a chance, and Kevin Warren knew this. They had a chance to raid the Big 12 and become the power in the West. West of the Mississippi, they would control more markets than anybody. Kevin Warren saw that. And he talked them out. He goes, no. He comes swooping in there like the fairy from The Wizard of Oz. Oh, y'all don't do that. Y'all come with me, and I'll protect you from the SEC. Yeah. Should have been trying to protect yourself from Kevin Warren, Pac-12, as you can see now. Because the Big 12 was teetering. The AAC was even talking about raiding the Big 12 under the guidance of ESPN, who won't admit to that either. And Kevin Warren talked him out of it. Why? I mean, Kevin Warren's never had a true liking of the Big 12 or the SEC because we showed up his ass in 2020. So why would he do that? Why would he help the Big 12 survive? Well, it's because he knew that the only way to get close to doing what the SEC did with Texas and Oklahoma was to get a market just as big, that being the LA market. So he psyched them up, waited a year, and he come in like a damn horror creature from Friday the 13th. He come in Jason Voorhees style and just stabbed the Pac-12 right in the damn back and took the two biggest markets. This was a love affair that had been going on for about 70 years, them and their little Rose Bowl love affair that they've had. 107 years that conference has been around, and Kevin Warren comes in and just, what is it? Has he been? How long has he been there? About 3 years, 4 years, and destroys that. Deep six them. Yeah, I know they're still around, technically, but it just feels like that this was more of a gut shot than the Big 12 losing Texas and Oklahoma. This feels like that this is probably going to kill the Pac-12, and Kevin Warren set them up for that. And that's the kind of person he is. And going forward, other teams think about joining the Big Ten, or anybody think about forming some kind of good faith alliance with the Big Ten, I definitely wouldn't do that. I would take that and go in the bathroom and flush it like a big old pile of crap. ACC, watch your back. Because if there's a way to get out of that grant of rights thing and the Big Ten sees that, well, then they're going to try to make some kind of little alliance with you. So just be careful with Kevin Warren and Big Ten, especially because of the history they have. The Big Ten especially, and the Pac-12. Pac-12 has followed around the Big Ten for about 60 or 70 years. They followed them around like a puppy on a mama's teat. And what do? This is what they do to them. They fractured them. And now the Pac-12 sees that they should have raided the Big 12. Because if they had taken 4 teams from the Big 12, then this blow that just took place might not be as profound. And they would have been able to survive. Now they're not going to survive. Big 12 is going to survive. And they're going to raid the Pac-12 at this point. Because Kevin Warren's snaky ass did what he did. He set them up. He lured them in. Made them think he was his friend. And he stabbed them in the back. Now, let's discuss the Rose Bowl and their effects on all this. You see, the Rose Bowl back in the day was considered the granddaddy of them all. Started in 1901. But it's not really the granddaddy of them all anymore. And it hasn't been since 1945 because that's when the Rose Bowl decided to take their ball and go home. They decided to tie up with 2 conferences. And up to that point, no bowl games were tied into any conferences. Keep that in mind. In 1945, the last team to play in the Rose Bowl, technically on January the 1st, 1946, was the University of Alabama. They played Southern Cal in the Rose Bowl and beat them 34-14. Alabama was 4-1-1 in Rose Bowls. So think about that. They decided to tie up both these conferences right after a Southern team goes into Pasadena and beats USC by 20 points in their own backyard. And they already went 4-1-1. Not to mention other Southern teams that have probably been there as well and handed them their ass. So they take the little ball and they go into this elitist shell and they talk about, oh, we're just academically inclined to each other. That's why we're doing this and blah, 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 blah. And hide behind the little AAU BS. I ain't going to get started on that crap. And they basically screw us as college football fans for 60 years because they don't want to let anybody else be involved in the Rose Bowl. And what they thought was, we'll just have our own national championship. We won't have to worry about being emasculated by the rest of the nation, whether it be in the South or the Southwest. But it didn't work out for them that great. Because of those 60 years, I don't think maybe USC, Ohio State, and Michigan combined won more than 3 or 4 national championships in that time, so it didn't really help them. And in 2003, when they come up with the BCS, well, actually the BCS came around in 1998, but it wasn't really fully the BCS until the Rose Bowl joined the fray because they drug their feet, as they always do, because the Rose Bowl wants to be the grand poobah. They want to be the granddaddy of them all. And it just don't work like that, Rose Bowl. Back in the day when you only need one bowl game, because they were considered the de facto national championship game before 1936, before the advent of the AP poll. You might have had a claim to being the granddaddy of them all then. But now you're just trying to do harm to college football, in my opinion. So they come in around 2004, and they decided to be a part of the mix because Southern Cal had to share the national championship with LSU because the UPI poll and the coaches poll and all the other media outlets were declaring the BCS winner the national champion. And the only way for USC to get recognized as a true national champion was for the Rose Bowl to acquiesce and come on board. So they did. Now we fast forward to the playoff, and now you have the 12-team playoff that came up, and the Rose Bowl had a hand in Deep Six in that because they didn't have enough power in it. Well, guess what, man? This ain't about one bowl game anymore. This ain't about the BCS anymore. This is about the playoffs. And whether it's 4 teams, 8 teams, 12 teams, or even 16, the Rose Bowl is not going to be the center of attention. The Rose Bowl and the Big Ten are straight up evil. I mean, just look what the Big Ten did to the Pac-12 after the Pac-12 was loyal to them for over 100 years. Look what they did to them. They went in there and fractured them. They went in there and beat them like a bad marital relationship. They went in there and abused them and fractured them and took their 2 biggest money markets from them. That was their gratitude. That was Kevin Warren's gratitude for the Pac-12 not raiding the Big 12 and being the biggest market in the West. He set them up. That's what he did. That's the kind of person Kevin Warren is. Notre Dame needs to think about that, and the ACC needs to think about that before they enter to any other of these lame-ass alliances that the Big Ten throws out there. Watch your back. That's all I got to say. Watch your back with the Big Ten and Kevin Warren, because they're a bunch of cowardly chicken shits. And that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a little heart down there, a little thanks. Hit that thanks button, drop a few dollars in the coffers, a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there. Get us off the YouTube teat. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams, class is now officially dismissed.